again, is a high conceptual understanding of what lean projects are all about. The bedrock concept here is in the center of the chart, is respect for people. You know, if you think about it, whether you're involved in a team in connection with project work, a sports team, even a PTA, if you don't respect and trust each other as team members, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to realize the full benefits of what you're striving to accomplish for your stakeholders. So respect for people is a bedrock concept in lean. It's a concept that we spend time inculcating in people, encouraging them to trust and respect each other. And we'll go through exercises and training to help that happen, both for the initial team members and also people as we onboard them throughout the course of project performance. So respect for people is really the bedrock concept, without which I would go so far as to say it's very difficult to achieve the benefits of a lean project. Number two, optimize the whole. What does that mean? Well, if you think about it, in traditional project practice, crews and teams come on projects looking to optimize the aspect that they're bringing to the table. They want to get in, get their work done, move on to the next project. They're not too concerned about what happens before or after them in terms of the crews or the teams that enter the project when they're not there. In contrast, we encourage people to think about not just optimizing what they're doing on the project, but optimizing the whole project. We encourage them to sit down at the beginning of a project to plan their efforts, make visible to each other, the various crews, what they're going to be doing and when on the project, and help them understand individually how what they do is going to have an effect on others, and what people come before them, how they're going to affect their work as well. So we seek to encourage them to deconflict activities, to perhaps change up slightly how they're going to perform their part of the project to help the next crew who comes behind them do a more effective job over time. So optimizing the whole and not just the parts is very important in a lean project. Number three, removal of waste. Probably you've heard about how lean projects focused on removing waste, and indeed there are 8 different wastes that we've identified that impact projects. We encourage people to learn to see waste. You know, when you work in an environment where certain wastes are taken for granted, after a while you don't see them anymore. So we encourage people to focus on waste, learn what these 8 wastes are, and work as a team to get rid of them, because waste gets in your way, it impedes your performance, and it's disrespectful to the owner or the other key stakeholder who's paying you to do this project for them. Next is focus on process and flow. You know, projects are made up of a variety of processes happening in tandem, happening in sequence to make for successful project performance. As we all know, very, very often, impediments to project performance occur, weather delays, other types of issues occur, and they cause processes not to be able to be performed in as productive way as you'd like. Teams get in each other's way, they have to wait for each other, they have problems on site, making things happen effectively. So what we try to encourage in lean project performance is focusing relentlessly on promoting flow. Flow is the smooth, unimpeded handoffs between and among project team members from one crew, one team to the next. We make reliable promises to each other. We focus on making sure we meet those promises, and we make sure that if I promise that I'm going to have my crew done by midday on Thursday so you guys can get in there and finish by the weekend, I'm going to move heaven and earth to make sure I make my commitment, make my promise. As these reliable promises continue throughout the course of project performance, as the team trusts each other to perform on these promises, flow is really enhanced. And flow is kind of the holy grail that we're looking for on lean project performance, this smooth, unimpeded ability to get your work done and make sure the next crew behind you can get their work done as well. Number 5 is generation of value. Value is hugely important on lean projects, and we spend time at the beginning of the project understanding what value means from the standpoint of the owner or other key stakeholders. We sit down with them, we talk about the value proposition for this project, and we capture in written form what that value proposition looks like, a series of bullets, value statements, etc., and we post those on the project work site. So as project performance goes forward, team members can consistently refer to those points and think about how is what I'm doing adding to and benefiting the value for the owner, or is it in some way perhaps impeding or causing us not to realize that value? So making value available, the value proposition available in a very specific way that teams can refer to is important on the project. Also, if you think about it, value is the antithesis of waste. If you're creating waste, you're impeding value, and if you're consistently adding value, you're generally going to be removing waste out of the way of the project. So generation of value and understanding what value is very important on a lean project. And finally, continuous improvement. This is the thing that, in my mind, ties it all together. We encourage teams to come together in meetings that are structured, not necessarily long meetings, but structured meetings over a period of time. And for instance, looking at constraints to project performance, developing a constraint log. What are the constraints that are impeding our productivity on this project? What are the constraints that drive us nuts? What are things that bug us that we want to take out of our way so we can be more productive collectively, individually and collectively? So we develop this constraint log, and then we brainstorm through each of these constraints as a team. How can we get rid of this constraint? Maybe it's just the acquisition of another piece of equipment for a couple of months. It will help us all not be impeded in our productive efforts. Maybe it's just changing up some of our processes in a way that will help us move some of these constraints out of our way. But over time, we focus on constraint analysis and reduction through something called plan, do, check, adjust, the PDCA cycle. It's really based on the scientific method, hypothesizing and then acting to see if that hypothesis works, in this case, in removing constraints. So we plan to address a constraint, we implement or do that new activity, we check, is it working or not, and then we adjust, continue it, or brainstorm something else if it's not working. So the PDCA method is very important in promoting a much more productive project environment over time. And again, as this continues through the project performance, you're improving flow. You're generating more value. You're removing more waste. You're making it easier for the team to meet cost and schedule parameters and other key performance indicators. So that, in a nutshell, is the conceptual basis of the 6 tenets of lean and how, I'm sure you can contrast in your own mind, this differs from traditional project practice to a significant degree.